Well, hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Faith Together podcast presented to you by the Center for Faith and Family at Olivet Nazarene University. I'm Lindsay, and I'm here today joined with my wonderful co-host, Leon. Hi, Leon.
Hi, Lindsay.
Well, Leon, today is a special day because it's not just you and I here in the studio. We have a special guest with us today.
Yes, we do. I'm very excited about today.
Yes. So as listeners, you know, we have been in our Screen Time Safety series, and we've been following through a wonderful book called Screen Kids, written by Arlene Pellicane and Gary Chapman. And today we're thrilled to have the author Arlene Pellicane here on the podcast. Arlene, welcome.
It's so wonderful to be with you, and I'm sure Dr. Chapman would say hello as well.
That's great. We are so glad to have you. Thank you for making time, and thank you for this amazing book and all the research that you've done. We sure are learning a lot, and we're excited to just dive in a little bit more today and discuss how families can make a technology plan for themselves. But before we get there, Arlene, we would love just to hear a little bit about your family and what pulled you to research this important topic for kids and families.
It's like I have children, so I had to talk about screens because we live right in this new generation where moms and dads of yesteryear didn't have to talk about this. They talked about TV and could you watch Love Boat? You know, they talked about those kinds of things. So I have 3 kids. I have a college age student and 2 high schoolers. But I started writing about technology about 10 years ago in 2014. So my kids were much smaller then. And we were very much finding great success with our kids. Like they read, they play, they talk to us, they love us. And they were doing this in the absence of iPads, right? So we were seeing that, you know, all these things we're hearing about, these horrible things happening with your grade school kids, et cetera. We were like, yeah, we're kind of okay. And realizing the absence of certain technologies. We are not technophobes. I have a podcast. My children have edited my podcast. My son did 3D printing all through high school. They use computers, you know, but there are certain things, a personal smartphone, video games, social media, you know, things like that we're like, hey, those are off the table. You know, my husband is a realtor and he remembers taking people in the van and it'd be a family from out of town. And he think all of the kids are just watching a video game and they're not seeing their new neighborhood, their new house, what could be their new room. And he was like, oh no, that will not be our children. So very early on, we decided, you know, very basic things, but very controversial things maybe, or uncommon things. No video games, no social media, no smartphones, for sure through elementary school, for sure through middle school, and then maybe in high school. And then what we have found is we've pushed that as well.
Wow, that's really interesting. So, Arlene, on our podcast, we've been talking quite a bit about the importance of just being aware. I think for a lot of our families, the technology comes, we're really excited about all the new abilities that technology has for us. And so we start engaging in it. And without much thought, we just kind of pass that down to our kids and let them experience that. We want them to be caught up in what's going on in the world so they're not left behind, those kinds of things. Yeah. But one of the things we've talked about as a part of this journey is understanding it so that we can kind of create a plan of how we're going to use technology in our families. And we got that idea really from your book. So give us an idea of why it is so important to have a plan when it comes to the use of technology.
That technology is something that is so fun, right? It's like, oh my goodness, how did we ever find this place without GPS? Or, oh my goodness, I can look around the world, you know, and it's like a camera that's live right now around the world. I mean, there's so many amazing things about technology that are to be celebrated. And that's why many times we as parents, we just embrace it. But it's kind of one of those things that if you as a parent have thought, okay, let's bring in this video game, or let's go ahead and get this streaming, you know, platform or whatever it is. Very soon after you've realized, oh, I did not realize that now I would be having to say, put that down, put that down, put that down. Or what did you just see on that? Or what did your friend just show you? And if you just kind of say, let's see where this goes, it tends to go to some very dark places pretty quickly. I have a friend that says when she had a sixth grader and so many sixth graders were getting phones, and the other mom said, well, you'll have to get your sixth grader a phone because everybody has one, but let me also give you my therapist's number because you're going to need this too. And
Wow.
she said it as if like this was very blasé, like, yeah, you're going to need the phone and you're going to need the therapist, and here you go. So I think for parents, we need to realize if we do not have a plan, if we don't have a purpose, a goal for the technology use, then the technology will set those goals for us and for our children. So if we don't have a plan like, okay, this is why we are getting this device and this is how we're going to use it. This is how we are going to like say, oh, this is working, or, oh, this isn't working. Like we're going to have parameters around this. If we don't have that in place as a family, then we are all just going to drift. And each of us, mom's going to be shopping, dad's watching sports, sisters on video games, brothers watching cartoons, and we're all in our little silos at home, entertained, amused, quote unquote safe because we're not on the streets. But 2 years in, we're like, oh, we have drifted apart from each other. And we don't have say as parents anymore because we've just kind of let this happen. So very much like driving, there's a plan for this. It's like we don't just say, here are the keys, here's the car, good luck, buddy. We don't do that. We have a plan. There are certain ages. And so think of the phone, think of addictive technologies like YouTube, TikTok, things like that. Think of it like we need a plan for this, or else it will eat up. The average child in America is spending 6 to 8 hours with entertaining screen time, 6 to 8 hours. That is a huge swath of time. And 5.5 of those hours are usually with some kind of social media like Instagram or TikTok. And you just think like, what is that doing to your social skills, to your soul, to your ability to contribute to your family, to your ability to read? Like there's so many costs of that time being spent. And yet if you don't enter it with a plan, the 15 minutes turns into 30 and the 30 turns into an hour. And before you know it, you're like, oh my word, my child is on the phone from the time they get home from school till the time they go to bed. But it's easier for the parents because we're busy too. So you've got to enter this with a plan because the consequences are pretty dire of entering it without.
Yeah. And I love how you pointed out there, Arlene, that it is easier to let it go because this is hard, right? For all of our listeners.
And it's common.
Yes.
Like it used to be if you were a bad parent, you'd feel kind of like, oh man, I'm like really doing a bad job. But now you feel the opposite. Like I didn't give my kid a phone or this video game. Am I a bad parent because I'm withholding it for them? So it's very common to see kids on electronics. So you feel like, well, this must be okay because so many people are doing it.
Yeah. So as parents are listening today, what would you say is, a clear why for this hard work, for the reasons behind these rules and these boundaries? Because we know that it's very difficult and it's something that you have to be intentional with. And so in those moments that you just want to throw in the towel and say, look at the iPad, and just let the iPad take over or turn on YouTube, or in those moments that are the hard moments, what would you say is important to remember as that why to keep us on course, on track, where we need to be?
So in the phase that we're in that we can't see beyond that. But this is just a short sliver. Like, believe me, I've got the college age student and the 2 high school students. And it was like yesterday that they were little. And for the rest of your children's lives, they will be adults. So it's kind of what you need to think of as the why is not that you're raising a child, but you are raising a future adult. So look at your child and pretend they are 25 years old. Okay, great. Your child is 25 years old. This should probably mean less stress for you because they should be independent. They should be doing their own thing. They should be making up their own money. They shouldn't be taking much money from you at all, etc. But if you are not raising them, preparing them for adulthood, then guess what? Wow, at age 25, they may not have the social skills to get a job. They may not have the people in their lives to go to, so they just have you. These are very important things. So if you're at dinner at a fast food place and your child can't make it without the iPad, and you're just thinking, I just need to get through the next 15 minutes. You need to think of it, wait a minute, I am launching an adult. So does this mean